Following an absolutely disastrous season for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Brad Treliving has finally broken the silence and he made some shocking comments in the first time for him speaking publicly since Game 7. Things have taken a major turn, and some shocking comments were made revealing some details not only on the Leafs' plans going forward, but the future of Mitch Marner, John Tavares, Matthew Knies, and more. So a ton to go over today, folks. Before we get into it, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. About 71% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. You guys have been absolute beasts, so thank you guys for that. And shout out to everybody who was in the live stream as well. Shout out to each and every one of you there, did very well. But there's a lot to go over today. Obviously, we're coming off of a stream. We covered the press conference, and there was a lot more said than we all initially thought was going to be said. There was a lot of actual comments that made sense and wasn't just robotic answers like we've seen in the past from previous general managers, not calling anyone out in particular. But let's just dive right into the comments here. A lot of surprising and even some shocking comments just based on the feel regarding this team going forward. But let's start with this. And there's one comment in particular that has people pretty excited or fired up, depending on how you kind of view it. But Leafs GM Brad Treliving, we fell short of where we wanted to be, and we fell short of where I thought we could be. And the press conference started. You can feel free to go back in our stream and watch the whole thing. But he basically started off by recapping the season and how he felt like he fell short, both as a GM, but also the team fell short. And he spoke about Brendan. Brendan did a lot of good things. Brendan built a real strong foundation. But the first major thing he said, and it was the third question, and questions about Mitch Marner, all these different things, and it's about DNA. And this is the one where everyone's talking about. There's some DNA that has to change in our team. If you keep getting to the same result, there's some DNA that needs to change. That's on me going forward. We've now started the planning. It's early for putting a team together in 2025, 2026. So Darius, what are your thoughts on this? And also knowing now what we know about what he said about Mitch Marner and some interesting things which we'll dive into. We'll also have future videos on it. DNA change. He's not calling out Mitch Marner directly, I wouldn't say, but based on his body language and everything we've heard, I do not think Mitch Marner is going to be returning.
No, and the first thing I want to say actually is the reason that, league wide, people love Paul Maurice and other personalities or GMs, whoever it is around the league, is because they're very personable and they're very transparent. And I feel like for the first time, at least in my lifetime, a Leafs GM is that and very transparent. I thought this was one of the most transparent exit interviews in the league, right? Honestly, like from Brad Treliving, and he laid it all out there on the table in terms of things he could talk about. We know he wasn't going to give too much, and we'll get to it about Mitch Marner and other things. But in terms of what he could talk about, he actually did give some really good insight. And in terms of the DNA thing, he's right? Like I see the game, I think the same way as Brad Treliving, and I know a lot of people don't like Brad Treliving, and I can appreciate that as well. But I think he's actually going to do a lot of really good things for this team, and I'll tell you why. It's because he's talking about DNA right now. This team and the current makeup of it, Craig Berube talked about it as well, doesn't actually believe that they can accomplish what they need to accomplish, right? In their bodies, whatever it is, psychologically, they don't believe that they can do it. No matter how much they talk about what they want to accomplish and that they think they can accomplish it, this much disappointment in this much heartbreaking fashion, they don't believe that they can do it. So change must come, and I think he's going to bring change. And one of the reasons why I thought Kyle Dubas didn't succeed in Toronto is because he filled the team, and this is only one reason, there's a bunch of reasons, but he filled the team with veterans, yes, which you need to do, but it was guys who've never been able to do it. He got Patrick Marleau, Joe Thornton, Wayne Simmons. Love those guys as players, but they never been there and they've never been able to accomplish winning a Stanley Cup. And Brad Treliving in his first season brought three guys who won the Stanley Cup just last year onto the roster. So I think a lot of what he talked about today is going to be that. There's going to be change. I don't think Mitch Marner's returning. We can get into that in a second as well, based on what he said today. And I think it's not about replacing Mitch Marner, but it's about filling out the rest of the team with guys who've been there, have a winning mindset, and can close out games. Because he was talking about it in this press conference. There was a bunch of times against Florida that showed maybe immaturity and the fact that they just couldn't do it. They don't think they can do it, and they cannot close out the games that they need to.
Yeah, and you mentioned, obviously the DNA thing, that's going to be the buzzword that everyone's using because that screams that Mitch Marner, and the way that he was speaking, basically was saying that what you just said, like he didn't say it as direct as you did. They don't know the players themselves. They've tried it for years. Brad Treliving acknowledged the fact that well beyond his time, before his time, here with the Leafs, there was a lack of success in the playoffs. There was failure, and that is time to change because when you do the same thing over and over, of course, definition of insanity, all those things. Treliving said that in his interview while also giving credit to the Florida Panthers, saying that they've set a standard, but that series is going to stay with him for a very long time. Disappointed in how he played in games 5 and 7. And they asked Mitch, asked him directly as well, Brad Treliving, regarding Mitch Marner, are you going to offer him a contract on July 1st? And he said there's obviously no guarantee. And I wasn't going to be able to answer that. I know some people are taking it out of context. There are some tweets out there. They asked him the question, can you guarantee you at least get an offer in for Mitch Marner and John Tavares July 1st? He said no, because obviously you can't guarantee anything either way at this point. They're still having those conversations. But I mean, we think back, and here's the full comment on Mitch Marner's future. We're in that process right now. Mitch and I had a discussion during exit meetings. My message was, let's take a step back, breathe a little. We're going to meet as a staff, and I'm going to be in touch with Mitch's representative. Mitch has a say in this as well. And also, missing from this a little bit within the interview, the press conference rather, he said that they had a meeting after, like it says here, but that he said that Mitch was very emotional. So take that as you will. I kind of leaning towards the side that maybe he didn't express immediate interest in returning. So that's why I said, let's take a step back and things like that. And ultimately, Brad also said during this press conference multiple times that it's not just Brad Treliving's decision, it's Mitch Marner's decision as well. I think all signs here, you pair it with the reports. I've never been more sure that Mitch Marner is going to be let go, and I think it works from both sides. You pair that with the DNA comment, and I think the writing's on the wall.
Yeah, and I think in a vacuum, like if you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs side of things, losing a player like Mitch Marner for nothing to free agency just looks bad. Like the optics are bad, right? So ideally, Brad Treliving, what he's trying to say is, reading between the lines, I totally agree with you, and I don't think Mitch Marner's returning. And I think that he kind of already knows that based on the exit interview. But I think that he's just trying to say that, like, listen, let's take a step back. Maybe things will, change, and then maybe he wants to sign for a dollar amount that, we can actually afford in our structure of team. So I think it's going to be very interesting. And I don't think we were going to get answers about certain players today. And even, there was questions about Austin Matthews' injury. You were never going to get an answer on that because that's Austin Matthews' prerogative to talk about that. And you were never going to get an answer on Matthew Knies, John Tavares, and Mitch Marner because they don't know. I don't even think they know if they want to sign John Tavares still to get away from Mitch Marner for a second. I think they still have to evaluate everything. And like Treliving said, that's going to start right after this press conference. They're going to get to work on, what does this team look like moving forward? And do we have an answer on Mitch Marner? And, they got to look at different scenarios at this point. So that's what they're going to start working on and how this team looks different. But he did talk about change, right? A lot in this press conference. And I think it might start with Mitch Marner. And I know a lot of people are saying if you end up re-signing John Tavares, are you really changing that much? Maybe not, but you can, with the money that you're saving for Mitch Marner, which isn't that much because of a lot of extensions kicking in, you can try and, fill out the rest of the team with guys who've been there and done that, like I said. So it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening because the door isn't closed yet. I think it is closing, but the door isn't closed yet. And I think that it could make things a bit messy because if it goes down to the wire here and then Mitch Marner decides that, yes, he is leaving and then things change with John Tavares or Matthew Knies, that could get messy for the Leafs. But I think they want to get everything done in pretty short order here because, again, they don't want it to linger until the draft, which at this point is a month away.
Yep. And I mean, he also spoke of Matthew Knies when he said he wants to get that done as soon as possible. So obviously he's an RFA, so he's still technically under contract. They are going to get Matthew Knies extended. We're all very confident as that, hopefully. And the question was regarding before July 1st. I think he gets extended here in the next couple of weeks. I think it's going to be, or at least rumors are going to start to drop by, mid-June to late June, and then of course get it done before. But yeah, it's a pretty crazy time right now. He said a lot more than we initially thought. Let's go over some other ones. He was asked a direct question about what happens if Marner does walk, and he said you had to prepare for every potential outcome, and that's the process they're doing. And also talking about you have to embrace winning. That's what he spoke about as well, and embrace the moment. And I think that's both hinting at Mitch Marner letting him walk, because I don't know if he embraces the moment well enough, but also getting in players who do embrace the moment, guys like Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand, whoever you want to go out and acquire. It's going to be a very interesting situation there. And quickly, before I wrap up, this was a very telling quote. And I think this just encompasses not just what Brad Treliving's feeling, but what most fans are feeling as well. That series is going to stay with me for a long time. The way it ended is going to stay with me for a long time. When you think you have a chance to win and you don't, it stays with you for a long time. We have to find a way to push past the critical moments. And those critical moments, his most notable one was Game 3. But let us know down below what your critical moment was, but also what you think the critical moment of this offseason is going to be, because it's going to come down to Mitch Marner. More and more reports are going to drop. We'll have another video for you later today, and also a bunch of videos coming, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you guys later.